Hi fans, and welcome to Ward 13 with Jon Hopwood. If I wasn't standing right here, you could see there's the banner for the baseball show. Can we get a camera angle on the main screen for a bit? Yes, the baseball show. We're going to talk some baseball, and then we might start talking about another contest, the New Hampshire primary, and the Iowa caucuses. We have here on my left a stout defender of the newest gazillionaire in professional sports, Erich Pillsbury Doughboy Pilcher. That's not a flattering angle, Erich.
I do apologize. Yeah, I'm on my iPad today.
Okay, you're going to have to learn like I do when I have my appointment with a psychiatrist at the VA. You take a chair and put something on it like your printer and put it level. We also have I'm just going to say, from the environs of the greatest metropolis in the world, New York City, and its satellites, our old correspondent, Tommy TKO. Tommy, why don't you, we don't usually call you Tommy, but today is a special day. Was it today or yesterday that Aaron Judge was signed by Yankees general manager Brian Cashman to a 9-year, $360 million contract?
It was during the
announced
overnight
by
hours.
Chris Mad Dog Russo at dawn
We
this
have somebody
morning
else here.
in San Diego.
So I'm going to let Tom speak, and then we'll go to you, Erich, because he is a Yankees fan. Tom, tell us what was going on, because we had heard. I lived in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, for a long time, and I do have a prescription to the Chronicle, although yesterday I told him I was going to cancel it on Twitter, because I went to the Chronicle, remember, because there was the rumors were out there that the Giants were about to sign him for $360 million. And Aaron Judge, who comes from from California, a little bit from the Bay Area, was in California yesterday, was he not?
He was. No, actually, he was in Tampa the night before at the Buccaneers game with Tom Brady hanging out on the field and with a bunch of other ball players.
Oh, another taking financial tips?
Then last night, while it was Jon Heyman announced.
Say who Jon Heyman is.
The Judge.
Who's Jon
Heyman? Is a very well-known sports writer who has a huge Twitter following as well, some 800,000 people. And he announced that it was a done deal that Aaron was.
Was with the Giants or with San Diego?
A Giants.
Right, and
then he shortly afterwards took it back. But of course, once a rumor like that has been published, you wonder whether there's smoke where there's fire, and it's just a matter of time.
Well, I believe that when I went to the Chronicle, they didn't even have Judge. Remember, I was complaining, and if you follow me on Twitter, their sports section was about some kid of South Asian ethnicity who played basketball at Stanford, and he'd be in the NBA draft. And then the first story in the baseball section was Barry Bonds, once again rejected for the Hall of Fame. And they only had one story.
Judge for a minute.
They only had one story: is should they spend their $300 million on Judge, or $100 million on 3 players? So the Chronicle just had the offer from the Giants at the $300 million level, which it had been for years. Because the Chronicle wanted Judge, and we'll come to you, Erich, soon. Hold your horses. I can see you chomping at the bit.
Right, but so you were asking about Aaron being in California. He flew out while all this was going on, and Yankee fans, Yankee officers were looking kind of grim and nervous. And
right, yesterday.
It just didn't look good. And Judge was on the plane, on a private plane from Tampa, the Steinbrenner's hometown.
Right.
San Diego. And the Yankees didn't seem to know he was coming. It took them by surprise, which made it look doubly bad right?
That's right. Tampa is the Steinbrenner's hometown.
But what we didn't know was actually that he was coming to get an offer from the San Diego Padres.
And does anybody know how much they offered?
More than the 360. Apparently, they bid more than 360 for 9 years, but I'm sure we'll learn soon.
Okay, now we're going to go to Erich. Erich, what's the biggest contract for a position player in sports? I mean, in baseball. Where this is the baseball show, not the sports show.
I believe it is now Judge.
No, before Aaron Judge.
Let me take a look here. I knew it this morning, and it's not getting into my head here.
Isn't it a California Angels player?
Oh yeah, Mike Trout.
I thought he was going to be a $40 million man in his contract. Is that true, Tom? Is Trout before this
I think Trout is about 35 a year.
And I think he might go up to that. But, of course, these contracts are structured with a lot of deferred payments.
No, but this is the annual average value. That's what everybody talks about.
Right. It's like Giancarlo Stanton is getting $29 million this year. But in 2023, he's going to get $32 million.
Right, but his average won't be anywhere near that.
Aaron Judge is third
AAV.
for the largest contracts in Major League Baseball. Mike Trout is number one at $426.5.
For how many years?
For 11 years.
For how many years?
11.
Holy smoke! He was a young.
Mookie Betts is number two.
Even if Judge had gotten 37.5 per year, that still would have been more per year than Trout was getting.
Okay, what did Mookie get from the Dodgers?
Mookie got 11 years for $365 million. So overall, It was larger, but he won't make as much as Judge will annually.
Okay, I'm going to ask Erich.
Judge is getting $40 million a year.
Right. Now, I'm going to ask Erich this first, Tom, and then we'll pass it off to you.
Sure.
Erich, 9 years, $360 million to when he's in his prime, is as great a player as you can have. We're not going to talk about the, postseason, as I like to tease you lovers of Judge, because even the great Ted Williams, didn't have such a great time in the postseason. But this is a guy that at most had 3 outstanding years, possibly 4, and we have to count because we have to count in COVID. 30 years old, 6'7", 280 some odd pounds. Is $360 million for 9 years a sane contract? And I'm using the word sane.
I don't have an issue with the value of baseball contracts. I have an issue with the years. When you have that many years, you're trying to predict when the downturn will happen. And it's very hard because if he has a major injury 3 years into this contract, you're stuck.
Right.
So I don't have an issue with the money, the $40 million a year, because I think big picture he's worth it.
He's a $40 million a year player. He's a Trout class player, a Mookie Wilson class player. At his prime, when he's playing at his prime, which he managed to do in his option year. Not his option year, his walking year. Right? This was his last year, Tom, right? Before free agency. Well, he was a free agent.
He was a free agent. What are you talking about?
That's right. He did his 6 years.
And keep in mind that the Yankees offered him a $265 million deal, I believe, during last offseason, and he bet on himself and declined.
Yeah. Tom, what is your take on signing Aaron Judge? You are a lifetime Yankees fan, although, you were partial to the Cardinals, I think, in the 64 World Series when you were about 5 or 6 years old.
67. No, 67.
Oh, you don't remember the six? See, I don't. I vaguely remember World Series, but I don't actually remember them.
No, I became aware of baseball in 67.
That's the year I became too, of obvious reasons. But how critical was it that the Yankees signed Aaron Judge?
Well, I mean, you asked if it was. What did you say? Was it a sane contract?
Is it a
What did you
sane?
call it?
Okay, there's two issues here. Is it a sane contract from just the broader, like you're a general manager on one of these teams, the 32 teams, and
Well,
obviously,
it depends what you mean by sane. I mean, obviously they're making money because the market found itself, and 3 different owners
right.
felt this would be valuable, and they're not really in the habit of getting poor running baseball clubs.
And San Diego was willing to top all comers.
Apparently so, yeah. He didn't even take the highest offer, apparently.
Which should win.
And everyone's guessing that's San Diego, but we don't know.
But
whatever,
yeah.
the market is what it is. The contract is what it is. Because 3 teams stepped up and were ready in a very short period of time to commit more per year to a player on a long-term contract than has ever been done before.
Right. This isn't Scott Boras bamboozling Hanks, the late Hank Steinbrenner, and getting him an unbelievable extension.
To bid against himself.
Bidding against himself when there wasn't
against,
one other bidder. That's when I dubbed the brothers Tweedledum, which would be Hal, and Tweedledummer, which is Hank. But, right, he's bidding against himself.
But the Yankees had no choice, in my view, but to sign him. They just re-upped Cashman the night before for 4 more years.
Cashman is the general manager.
And there's no way he can go into his first day of work under the new contract and lose Aaron Judge. He would have suffered immeasurably in the New York papers for the next 4 years.
Was there any rumors, either one of you, that San Diego is in the market for Aaron Judge?
I didn't hear
San Diego
anything.
had just missed out on somebody, and I did hear a guy on Buster Olney's show suggest that, well, now it would really make sense for San Diego to go for Judge.
What did you?
And apparently, that's exactly what San Diego was thinking.
What were you saying?
But it wasn't really a rumor. It was a logical inference.
Okay. What did you hear, Eric?
Exactly what he said. Basically, San Diego had lost out. I believe they were going after Contreras, who signed today after Judge. And they also missed out on Jose Abreu, who signed with the Astros. So they decided to get in on Judge very late in the game. What I heard was late last night they sent an offer.
Right.
Okay, so they thought they could trump. That's a hard word to use anymore.
Judge was on the
Yankees.
plane, not to come to the meetings in San Diego, but to come meet with San Diego.
Okay. And did he have did he personally meet with Hal Steinbrenner?
Oh yeah, yes.
And
not at the meetings, but yes, they've had. Steinbrenner told him at the beginning of all this. I mean, talk about not having the opportunity to back down. He said, "Look, we're not going to let money stop us. We want Aaron Judge to be here for life," and we told him that.
Okay, and he was came up through the system, was drafted, and came up through the system, and he was supposed to be a core of a new dynasty that didn't quite pan out.
We're just missing the other 3 so far.
Yeah, you're also missing, I think, the manager to take you into World Series. I don't think.
Yeah, we
Boone
definitely are.
is the manager.
Hey,
Eric?
No,
I
Booney
heard
is not a
something
great
on
manager.
I heard something on ESPN today that makes a lot of sense. Someone said this team, the Yankees, no offense to Tom, was swept by the Astros, and they've made no improvements to that team, where you can argue the Astros have gotten better offensively by adding Abreu. So they still have to make improvements.
Okay, Tom, how do you answer that? That your team now that went out in the playoffs earlier than
In
even
a sweep.
even
In a sweep, they went out in the playoffs.
well, they went out
Just went
earlier than most baseball fans who want, and including network executives, TV and cable executives want. As Erich said, this team, by signing Judge, has not improved. It is just standing still. What could it do now?
They haven't improved.
They haven't improved. What do they do now?
All they've done is they've kept their right field. They've kept their best player. That's all.
How can they
kept Rizzo.
What did you say, Erich?
Sorry, they kept Rizzo, and they also have lost Jamison Talon. He signed elsewhere, a starting pitcher.
So what's the pitching look like? Talley signed with another team.
Yep.
Well, just not yep. You're here to
I'm not sure we don't have enough starting pitching.
Yeah.
We're going to see. Now Cashman has to go earn his keep, and Hal has to not be cheap and say, oh, well, we spent all this money on Judge. Because you're right. We have not improved. We've stayed where we were. And that's not nearly good enough.
One way I think things will
right is that we do have some very good kids coming up.
Yeah, but
I don't believe you can build a team without that sort of speed.
Is Aaron Boone going to be the right manager for this new team? If you're going to rely on kids,
he's the right manager for any team.
Why is Cashman and Hal Steinbrenner sticking with him? I mean, they stuck with Girardi.
They tell him to. He's a very obedient manager.
Oh, you mean he that doesn't seem I don't know what to say to that. What do you think, Erich?
Because the front office is running a huge data center. And the data center determines a great deal of what the Yankees do. And Boone agreed when he signed on to be a part of that kind of structure.
So he's just a vassal. He's a coach.
He doesn't demonstrate any killer's instinct as a manager, and he doesn't command respect from his players. It's like they're friends.
Yeah, I'll say one great thing that happened this year is that Dusty Baker finally got to win a World Series. Because that guy had heart, and he had a hell of a lot of good teams. But
Captain Derek Jeter used to call Joe Mr. Torrey.
Well, Joe Torre that's a different era. That's gone now.
Yeah,
you know?
we could. They're great. Buck is doing a great job with the Mets.
Buck Showalter. Okay, let's have Erich is straining at the bit. All right, Erich, we're going to let you go like one of those huge hogs they grow in Iowa. You know, the ones that can crumple a Cadillac.
Arizona.
What I will say is the Yankees did offer Justin Verlander. He took less money to go to the Mets.
I didn't know that.
More than likely to be with Max Scherzer. Also, they did keep Anthony Rizzo in the fold. But I think the thing with Aaron Boone is they wanted to get away from the commander-like manager that they had with Joe Torre and Joe Girardi. They wanted a yes man. And the problem when you have a yes man is that resonates in the locker room. They know that the manager's just a yes man for the office. So they're not going to respect him as much as they would a guy that's going to butt heads with the office.
So essentially what you're saying, and Tom, you can comment on this, that the Yankees have constructed like a machine, which if you remember in the latter day of the Del Webb days, when they unceremoniously S-canned Casey Stengel and brought in Ralph Houck, they kind of wanted the Yankees to run like a corporate machine then. But of course, it's a different era when you have players like Yogi Berra and Jim Bouton, and to say nothing of number 7, Mickey Mantle. But I remember reading about that they wanted it to be a more corporate type of thing. They might have been planning on selling it like they did to CBS after '64. What do you think about what does it do to a team?
Presumably, they want a team that wins.
Well, they
win during the season, but this team hasn't won a World Series since 2009.
Yes,
and they've really just looked pathetic in the playoffs since then.
Well, that was the rap I always had about Tony La Russa. I was out in the Bay Area. I'd go see the Giants, and the Giants were in. I could see baseball virtually every day, and I almost did several years. Tony La Russa was a great manager through the season, but when it would come to the World Series, he would do the exact same things he was doing through a season, like, well, we can lose, and, we got another 100 games, or we got another 40 games. He never adapted himself that much. And,
right.
You see, and then you have the Don Zimmer. I remember going to the '89 NLCS, National League Championship Series, and there were Cubs fans who were taking the bus to Candlestick Park. And they were all buoyant. And I said to them, "You're going to lose." And they look at me, these are people from Chicago. So I figured, some guy from New England who's utterly obnoxious, they're probably used to that. I said, "You're going to lose." And one of them had the guts to say, why are you saying that? And I said, because you got Don Zimmer as manager. Because Zimmer in that '89 season, he was doing everything, even during the season, seat of the pants, crazy, ideas that paid off. But he ran out of gas during the World Series. Zim was always a guy, I think, above his. He reached the Peter principle as a manager. Zimmer was one of the great third base coach of all time, they say, and a great coach.
Right.
But he was a guy using hunches.
We enjoyed having him.
But, you have somebody like, Earl Weaver and Billy Martin were that Billy Martin's not in the Hall of Fame is downright shameful. Those guys could do it in the season, but they could do it in a game situation. They were
cigarette-addicted alcoholics.
Except Earl Weaver was a pleasant alcoholic.
Yeah, and Billy was...
That's what they used to say. The difference between Bob Lennon and Billy Martin is one's a nasty drunk and one's a pleasant drunk.
Right.
But I'm just saying, like a Billy Martin, depending on the team or the situation, when everything wasn't going to hell because he wanted to fist fight the entire team because they, laid down on him. He would rise to the occasion. Earl Weaver would do. Earl Weaver only won one World Series, but how many times did he win 100 games in a season? It doesn't seem like Aaron Boone and this corporate type of management can do it, because we've been watching the Yankees. We've been watching them for a while. Before Mr. Baseball. Remember when Aaron Judge came up? You were
I don't think it's fair to say it's corporate. I think it's data driven.
Data driven is corporate. That's the paradigm of corporation.
And
that's Robert McNamara.
Our understanding of data is not sufficient. Obviously, I mean, there was a time when very few teams were doing it, and it was a huge advantage.
Like, Russo was one of the first people to bring a computer in to the dugout. I mean,
it's nice.
Go ahead.
It's nice that we're getting rid of the infield shift for next year.
Say that again?
It's nice that we're getting away from the shift in the infield next year.
Oh, okay.
It's no longer going to be legal to have 3 or even 4 of your infielders on one side of second base.
Well, as Johnny Hawk would say, Ted Williams would have made a mad live on that situation in the '46 World Series if they had that rule then. But
Right. Well, a lot of players did. And
well, I think that's
a lot of players really got screwed.
we're not we're talking about a team. Tom, what you're talking about, data driven. That was Robert McNamara at the Department of Defense, and I used to meet old Vietnam veterans that. Well, you can always tell when a Vietnam veteran who they served under. They either hate Lyndon Johnson or hate Richard Nixon, and a lot of the some of the LBJ guys that are smarter, like the military intelligence, hate Robert McNamara too.
Right.
He was the Secretary of Defense. He came from Ford, Erich, and everything was numbers. Everything was numbers, and he gave us that.
Right.
He helped give us that disastrous war. Well. You know, as he said, the LBJ was responsible. The president is responsible for war, but who is responsible for a team winning?
And whoever got rid of Kennedy was responsible.
Right, because they were McNamara and Kennedy were going to pull these 16,000 advisors
Right.
out. But who is responsible for a winning baseball team? I mean, they bring up the owner of the team. You know, when the Yankees, that last dynasty, there was a lot of, there was Bob Watson, there was Joe Torre, there were all those great players before him. Yeah, but he wasn't. He helped to put.
He was GM, dude.
But what?
Oh no, Stick was key to the dynasty.
You know, you're talking slang. People don't know when you talk about that, and Gene Michael wasn't there. He helped put it together. But he wasn't there, and Buck Showalter weren't there when they won. The Yankees aren't winning. Why aren't the Yankees winning, Erich? Let's hear from
I got to agree with Tom. The big thing that happened that led to the Yankees getting that dynasty in the mid-'90s to early 2000s was George Steinbrenner couldn't run the team.
Yeah, that's when Michael had it.
Yeah, Gene Michael had it, so they could build the farm system. That's how they got Jeter, Pettit, Posada, Bernie Williams. They didn't trade them for big-name stars. They grew them and built them. It's a collaborative effort. You've got to have a strong farm system. You've got to have great scouts. You've got to have a GM that can get the right veterans in there, and then they mesh together and make it and build a world champion.
Hey, Erich, what Yankee draftee just got put into the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown?
I do not know.
Fred McGriff. He was a Yankee draft pick. God knows he probably, Toronto probably plucked him for compensation for some free agent or something.
When we signed Dave Collins or something.
Yeah, okay. You're still mad about Dave Collins since we were at Boston University. That was 40 years ago. He's still mad about Dave Collins.
But one thing I would like to add in regards to the Yankees, though, is there's a lot of uneasiness within the Yankee fan base right now. Keep this in mind. Since they won in 2002.
2009.
No, since 2002, the Red Sox have won 4 titles. The Yankees have only won 1.
Well, the Yankees won in 2000, the year 2000.
Oh, right. Since 2000.
They beat the Mets.
Red Sox 4, Yankees 1.
Right. Then 2001,
that really
they lost
New York
to,
fans.
The Marlins were 2003. So they lost to Arizona in 2001 in that 7 games.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Jeez, I'll always say the 1998 Yankees is the best team I've ever seen in my life.
It wasn't a matter of would they win the World Championship when the playoffs started. It was, would they lose a game in the postseason?
Well, we're not talking about the Braves now, because my father was a Braves fan as a kid. He was born in 1926. Then he moved to Atlanta in 1967, and he became a Braves fan again. He used to have to watch. He all of a sudden he's almost 80 years old, and his contempt for the Red Sox was over, and he embraced the Red Sox just before the 2004 World Series. He was so disgusted with Atlanta losing, over and over again. But the Yankees, they pulled it off. The nearest thing we have to a dynasty right now is Houston. Why is Houston so successful?
What I said earlier, they brought the right kids in. They brought in the right mix of veterans. They drafted Correa, who is now elsewhere, Altuve, Bregman, and then they brought in Verlander and brought in the right pitching. And it's meshed well and just allowed them to click.
Well, remember when this team, when Aaron Judge came up, there's Gary Sanchez and others, and Girardi, who had mentored these guys when they were in the minors, was supposed to be the new dynasty, but it just didn't happen.
The issue with Gary Sanchez is that he turned into a head case.
I don't understand why he was kept
his own height.
That was ridiculous, and it just wasted him.
But
they did waste Sanchez.
You have to work to improve.
And
he had horrible work ethic.
Remember Jim Sundberg when we were kids? We were in our 20s or in teens. Jim Sundberg, who had that, great catcher, couldn't hit his weight, but he was worth it with that Gold Glove, Of course, he's with Texas, so
they turned the Kraken into a broken old man.
Yeah, that guy, if he had been put at a proper position like first base, could have had an outstanding career. You just don't. I could never understand why they keep throwing him at catcher. And then Girardi, who was a catcher and was supposed to help him, is gone. And you have dear old Aaron Boone, and I guess the data is saying that he can do it, right? But see, that's where somebody like a Casey Stengel or a real baseball person with it in the blood can tell,
Mr. Torrey.
Well, remember, Billy Martin learned all his stuff from Casey Stengel. He learned platooning. He learned about the they get the two men on and hit a home run. He learned Casey Stengel was the person. Wasn't the first person, but he helped perfect the reliever. I think Joe McCarthy, who was a great Yankees manager, who I think didn't
caused way too many problems. Billy is an alcoholic, but he was a genius as manager.
But he adapted. Casey, and so did Earl Weaver. Casey Stengel was an innovator.
Right, but Billy would really get in people's heads.
Oh, yeah, Billy's alcoholism just ruined them.
He was like a 10th player on the field.
Yeah, but when you read if you haven't read it, Eric, you've got to read Sparky Lyle, the worst trade in history. Sparky Lyle for Danny Cater. He won.
You mean the best trade in history?
you ass. I've been having to hear this. How long have I known you? Danny Cater. They traded Sparky Lyle, a reliever, in 1972 for Danny Cater. And Sparky won the Cy Young in 77 as a reliever. And then they brought in Goose Gossage. And he wrote a great book, The Bronx Zoo, about that.
Yep.
The 78 season, I'm surprised have they ever made a movie about the 78 Yankees?
The Bronx is Burning.
No.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen it.
ESPN had a mini-series called The Bronx is Burning about the 78 Yankees, and it's amazing. Oliver Platt plays George Steinbrenner. John Turturro plays Billy Martin.
John Turturro's so too tall for Billy. Billy was like 5.5 feet tall.
They use I will say they use creative camera angles when shooting Billy.
Well, there's a scene in the book where they'd blown another game, and the Red Sox were out to like 13 games ahead. And Time Magazine at the end of July is saying, "Oh, the Yankees are through. Red Sox are, like the 27 Yankees." And Billy Martin, just before he gets fired, goes into the locker room, and wants to fight everybody. And it's like Sparky, who's
Right.
much bigger, says he would have fought everybody, and everybody loved him except Reggie, and
Reggie only loved Reggie.
they hated each other. But yeah, I saw the ball fall on Reggie's head.
One's a born liar and the other's convicted.
That's one of the greatest lines ever, folks. Ostensibly, Billy Martin was fired for the first time he told the press about his two bet noirs, his two what would you call it?
Two liars.
His two the two
Enemies?
people he said one's a born liar, meaning Reggie, and one's a convicted liar because George Steinbrenner was shaken down by the committee to re-elect the president, and got busted and was out of baseball for a year or so. But
he was also
George
busted
didn't
for
take that
hiring
well.
a private eye to follow Dave Winfield.
we're cruising down memory lane with our own real memories, not something from a TV movie. No.
But Billy came back plenty of times after. So,
what was it in '83? They had Billy's back on the program, and of course he was number one, and Billy's looking over his shoulder. But I think it was a illustration. He lasted the entire '83 season, didn't he?
Don't remember.
Yeah. Well, it became a sad tragedy with Billy. I still think he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, though.
He does.
Christmas Eve was very sad. Or was it Christmas night?
It was Christmas night.
Right.
There's always been rumors that Billy was driving, and then who was his pitching coach and his drinking buddy?
Art Fowler.
Art Fowler, right. And switched places so Billy's widow could get the insurance or something.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
So how's the New York press reacting to the signing of Aaron Judge, Tom?
I think everybody knows it had to happen.
Are they? But knowing the New York press, like I know the Boston press, they're in on it now. But are they going to start turning against the team, or is there really that type of journalism anymore? I'm talking to Tom now. He is a Yankee.
New York sports journalists, with very few exceptions, make their dinner by trying to create scandals and unhappiness with the team.
Right. It was that type of what they called investigative sports journalism originated in New York with Dick Young. Dick was with the Daily News before he went to. I know he skipped the papers, but I think he was with the Daily News. But Dick Young was this sports writer. Erich, and the older he got, like in the 70s, the nastier he got. And people gave him credit for driving Tom Terrific, the real Tom Terrific, out of New York and out from the Mets. Tom Seaver, who was one of the all-time great pitchers, and was the Mets,
I mean, the Yankees can win 10 games in a row, and they lose one, and the headline on the back of the New York Post will go, "The slide begins."
Well, Dan Shaughnessy, he came up when we were like at BU. He's still around, and he's even worse than ever, well, he has a right to be bitching nowadays because John Henry has just given up on the Red Sox.
They signed a closer.
As I told you, John Henry, who no longer, has a hedge fund, which used to give him lots of dough, he's shopping a share of Liverpool Football Club, the Fenway Sports Group. They can't get somebody, I guess, to buy the whole thing, so they'll either sell a majority or a minority share. But
right.
The Red Sox. What's going to happen to the Red Sox? I'm gonna give this ball to Erich.
Today they signed a closer in Kenley Jansen.
That's right.
I read a tweet from Jon Heyman, who was referenced earlier, that they are in deep negotiations with Xander Bogaerts, so they're working on keeping him.
But Peter Gammon said he's all but gone. Peter Gammon's the dean of sports writers now. Peter Gammon's is in the Hall of Fame.
Peter Gammon says that Bogaerts has close communications with the Red Sox.
And Gammon's was once the best, with incomparable, communications with the agents and the players.
They were far apart after their last discussions, but since Aaron Judge has signed now, there's a sense of urgency within the Red Sox to get their best offer out there to Bogaerts and see how close they are.
There was talk if they lost Judge that the Yankees might go for Bogaerts when.
But keep in mind, there's
who else would we
Carlos
go
Correa
for?
is still out there too.
Who's still out there, Eric?
Carlos Correa is still available.
Why wouldn't Verlander sign with the Yankees?
I don't know that he wouldn't. Steve Cohen went after him with a huge contract, and he said yes.
The rumor is that the Yankees offered him more money.
No, I don't believe. I haven't heard that.
That rumor started
I'm
in
not saying they
Iowa
wouldn't.
just a few minutes ago, didn't it, Eric?
Yes, I had read that he signed for less money with the Mets, mainly because of his relationship with Max Scherzer, who also pitches for the Mets.
Right, and that is important.
Right.
When you have players that are compatible, they're so key for a team.
Oh, those bastards.
Okay, that might not be a word that we can accept on public access TV. But
those batards.
those bâtards, les bâtards. Hey, when you told me that the Yankees offered him more money and he turned it down, my first impression I had was, what a effing ass. Because, winning with the Yankees. Winning in
But
New
is
York.
Justin Verlander really the guy that's going to take the Yankees over the top?
Now, Tom, winning a World Series with the Mets is one thing. 69, Tom Seaver, that was one for the ages. But that's because of the history of the Mets. 86,
That might be the greatest team I've ever seen.
86.
Just because I care so much about starting pitching. And, we've never seen a staff like
Yeah,
that.
but you didn't have a team like the 1998 Yankees was better. But that was a team with heart. And Gil Hodges, they played the... There's no Cleon Jones hit 340. That was they had an offense like the old Dodgers did. You ever look at the Dodgers offense? They got Maury Wills and the center fielder. I think that you're cracking walnuts with your ass with this. And I was trying to set.
Yeah.
I'm trying to set.
Ryan with our fifth starter.
I'm trying. Okay, you hush up now. I'm trying, Eric, to feed him a fat pitch. I was going to say, winning a World Series in New York if you're a Met or a Giant, the 51 Giants and the 54 Giants is one thing. But winning with the Yankees, right? But you blew it, Tom.
Yep.
It's no obviously you've cut your own throat. Obviously, Eric, I think you'll agree that Verlander, when he's not enjoying the wiles of his wife, Kate Upton, is hell with the Yankees. I'm going to win with the Mets, right?
I really wish the Yankees had signed him.
Well, they didn't, Tom, because the whole thing I was trying to give you the fat pitch is over with now. Now I'm being a nasty Red Sox fan and a Yankees hater.
Okay.
The Yankees aren't what they used to be.
They haven't been
I'm
for
winking
some time,
with my left eye at Eric. No, they aren't. I would rather have the Yankees, if the Red Sox aren't there, go as deep as you can,
Right.
Right,
I agree.
It was something, but we grew up with the Yankees See, if you were just a kid, Eric, you had a taste of it with the last dynasty. But there was a dynasty when we were boys. Then there was a dynasty
We
when we
spent
were
the fall of
teenagers.
1978 together.
Let's not go into that one.
One of the greatest seasons in the history of the Major League. One of the most memorable seasons, certainly.
I was on the 13th floor of our dormitory. We both lived on the same floor. And I could see right field from my window. That's all in Fenway. But this BASTARD managed to get a ticket. And I'll never...
because it was an extra game. It was easy to get a ticket.
Yeah, sure it was.
It was. This wasn't like now where, you get online with Ticketmaster for an hour and a half and maybe you get a ticket, maybe you don't. No. How far was my bed from the Red Sox ticket office, Johnny?
Well, are you sure that you actually, since your nickname was Snail, actually got out of bed and went and got it? I'm sure that Rocky got the tickets. He was a go-getter.
I didn't hear the last bit of that.
I'll never forget the time my sister picked me up. It was the first time I was going back to Manchester, New Hampshire from Boston. And the Boston Massacre had occurred. And in my memory, she's crying about what happened, dropping those 4 games.
Right, well, that was
Since you're watching the show, let's just pretend it's one of those false memories I'm saying to my sister. But I think all the Red Sox fans were on the verge of tears.
Right.
Then the Boston Massacre happened again in 2005.
It could have gone the other way.
Please, I'm not a masochist. We don't have to really grind the things in there.
Except for one man, little man, Bucky Dent.
Oh, yeah, it was Reggie Jackson that got the game-winning RBI. His statistic no longer exists. He's asking for it now, Eric. What do you think the future of the Yankees are? They're not going to get into the World Series next year, are they, the way things are?
If they stay pat the way they are, absolutely not. They have really no bullpen and no major starting pitching.
Absolutely not. Pitching. No bullpen, no frontline starting pitching.
If you're going to drop what they dropped on Judge, I'm going to assume that their work isn't done.
I don't know. They've really stretched that budget. He's saying they have great starting pitching. He says, Tom says they have a plethora of pitching. Do you agree, Eric?
Really good starting pitcher.
I think their starting pitching is good with Garrett Cole and Severino. I think the problem is the bullpen. And I think that's if they need to improve the bullpen.
Who are they going to get, Tommy TKO, for the bullpen, the Yankees?
I think their problem is the lineup. They have almost no left-handed hitters, almost no line drive hitters who put the ball in play and have a high on-base percentage.
Yep.
So you're basically saying Aaron Judge is the team.
All right-handers. And nobody's scary other than Judge, and you're screwed.
They're feast or famine.
Isn't there some way they can package Giancarlo Stanton and what's ever left of Jacoby Ellsbury's contract and send it to some soccer team for some young prospects?
We're finally free of Jacoby's contract.
I know. I used to go over that every year.
John, are they free of Johnny Damon's contract yet?
No, we're talking. The Mets still got Barry Bonilla, pulling in more money than he ever made when he was actually playing. Boy, that was a contract that was signed in 91 or 92. Oh, we lost Tom. Well, we're getting towards the end. Thank you, Tom, for. I was trying to hand him this big, grapefruit, this watermelon, and he could say, there's nothing like when you're a Yankee winning the World Series, which was probably true into the 70s, but then he had to go off on the Mets, huh? The Mets were all pitching and one, very little hitting, but they had a great manager, Gil Hodges. Gil Hodges is still not in the Hall of Fame, is he?
No,
That's incredible. To me, that's just they've been talking about Gil Hodges going to the Hall of Fame
I think
for
it's
45
I think it's
years.
criminal that Billy Martin isn't.
Right, but Gil Hodges as a player hit 370 home runs and was with those great Brooklyn teams.
Well, he certainly should be in.
Oh, can we show Erich? Erich, why don't you give us a prognostication of the baseball season? You got a few minutes before we sign off, and I'm going to go on the Matt Covington show.
Um, I think right now things are kind of staying status quo, really. The team that I'm most impressed with in free agency is the Phillies. They've really went all in, and they want to continue to succeed after making the World Series. But I think all the other teams have really just made minor improvements to staying put.
I don't like the Phillies. You know why?
No, why?
Because it's the name of a cheap cigar from my childhood. I also didn't like that team. I respected Mike Schmidt, but they just irritated me. They irritated me. That team they won in. When did they won the NL East? I think in 76, 77, and 78. Then they
love
got
their
Pete
powder
Rose
blue
and won it all in
uniform.
80. And then the broken down team won in '83. I don't know. They're just one of the. I was always an American League fan until I moved to the West Coast, and I used to follow the Braves too because my father, and it was America's team, right? You could watch it on Superstation WTBS, but I just didn't like them. But Mike Schmidt was a great player, and they had Steve
I,
Carlton, but he was so cold.
I love their maroon and powder blue
Well,
jerseys that they used to
now
wear.
you've got it. I'm colorblind, and you're teasing me now, and that's
Oh,
unacceptable.
I'm sorry, John.
Yeah, I am colorblind, and maroon. I don't know what that means. I guess it's a shade of red, right? But I
It's
will
a
tell
dark
you,
red.
the Philly fanatic. I tell that was
Don't
just
tell me you hate
degrading
the
for
Philly
baseball. The
fanatic.
Philly fanatic should have been sent to a concentration camp or something. They should have a concentration
What?
camp for bad sports mascots. And that's the other thing. I was going to sign up to be one of the running presidents with the Nats, but you had to be 5'7", and I didn't even make that. I'm shorter than Joe Morgan.
You are the first person I've ever heard say they dislike the Philly fanatic.
Oh, are you insane? Yeah, it's because you're crazy. You weren't around when the Philly fanatic. That was the first big. Well, they had the San Diego chicken, but he had panache, the chicken. And of course, he got canned, and then he was just the chicken. I wonder what happened to the chicken. On that note, folks, whatever happened to the San Diego chicken? I'll just say San Diego didn't sign Aaron Judge. The Giants, who wanted him because he's a hometown boy, didn't sign him. And now the Yankees are screwed. $360 million for 9 years. And that means $69 million to $72 million next year are put in 2 players. One of them, another guy that hit 59 home runs, up there. And he's just a bum.
Yeah.
Now that Tom's not here, I can
Giancarlo
really
Stanton is
cackle
a
about
walking
this.
strikeout.
Yes. I think that contract's going to be an albatross very quickly.
Much like Chris Sale for the Red Sox.
On that note, folks, adios, and maybe we'll see you next week if the world doesn't come to an end. Bye.